Hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde. Welcome to EFA135 on this Tuesday, August 4th. That's right, Equality for All 135. I want to start this podcast on a premise that I, Jean-Guy Bourguignon, wholeheartedly believe in vaccines. And I say this from the heart, I wholeheartedly believe in vaccines. But first and foremost, I believe in this, and I'm going to get down to it. And why do I say believe in vaccines? You want to do an exercise with those you love and respect? Take them to an old cemetery. I did that in my city. I took my daughters and their friend to the second oldest cemetery in the city. And I showed them tombstones from the 1800s. And I'm going to make it short and sweet. On those tombstones, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, doesn't matter, and what they died of. And it talked about like chicken pox and measles. And that's what they used to write what the child died of. And if you look at those old tombstones, and that's what it says on. And I showed that to my daughters and the reason, and to their friend. And the reason why I did that, that's why I believe in vaccines. 100 years ago, people would die, previous to all that, prior to the vaccine came out, children were dying of the. My mother had 9 children, and one of them, Nicole, died when she was 2 years old. Imagine that my mother went through that, right? And parents used to go through these things all the time. So hence why I believe in vaccines. Today we have your anti-vaccines individuals that won't even give the basics of vaccines. So the vaccines that were actually given, the patent was given. So and those vaccines are good for your children. You can't argue the facts. I'm gonna go back to my investigative background. The data, the facts are there. You can't argue the facts, and the facts are there. There's a lot of good vaccines out there. So let's get forward. And also we're going to touch base on the COVID in a minute and the reason why I talk about vaccines. So I believe in vaccines, but first and foremost, I believe in this. Why? We live in an insulin body world. That's what we live in now. We live in an insulin body world, an inflammatory body world that's creating underlying issues. And I was that guy. I was that guy that, remember I told you June 3rd, 2019, I was 340 when I started this, and I hit 350s and 330s. I would fluctuate between 330 and 350. And those that are heavy will tell you, yeah, I can fluctuate 20 pounds just like that. Well, that was me. That insulin body, that inflammatory body, that was me. And why do I believe in this? Well, 110 pounds later, I'm gonna describe how could I not talk about it? How could I not focus on this and tell individuals what they need to do? And those that used to tell me things in the past, that kind of stuff, and things like you're fat or things like, yeah, and I would have peers, good friends would tell me that, right? And they were right? You put on some weight and that kind of stuff. And my family would tell me, my daughters would tell me, but all that stuff started thinking in. Because I had done so many different lifestyles, so many different diets, so many different things, right? Everything was BS until I found this lifestyle. Until this is free, this is easy, and I'm going to explain to you why, first and foremost, I believe in this. Nutrient-dense food. That's what I put in my body. Nutrient-dense food. I'm very fortunate that first we have a garden on our property that my wife and daughters work really well. I'm blessed that my beautiful wife makes, and I said this to my daughters yesterday, you guys are blessed to have a mother like you do that makes nutrient-dense food for you every day. Because I see it in their eyes, I see it in their skin. My wife's going to be 50. I apologize, Elizabeth. I just dated my wife here, but she's going to be 50. And look at her skin, look at her eyes, look at her beauty. And I see that in my daughters because they live a nutrient-dense lifestyle. Because my wife always prepares real food for them. Do they have access to sugars and processed? Yes, they do, right? And they're kids. Like people want that kind of stuff, right? As kids, that kind of stuff. But it's not good for you, and it's not good for them. But do they still have access to it? Yes, they do. But do they live a nutrient-dense lifestyle? Absolutely, 100%, right? Why? What does all this do, right? Improves your hormones and thyroids. I'm going to get into that. All these changes to your body that I've experienced, disappeared, dissipated, completely gone. Burning of fat, you burn, like the abs are come out naturally. And I said this before, look at your old Greek paintings, your old Roman paintings, your Spartans, your oldest cultures on earth, right? Go through it and you're going to see the old paintings that, what do everybody has? Muscle tone. It was your pudgy people were your rich, those that ate 2, 3, 4 times a day, right? Those are your rich. But the average person, they all had muscle tone because that's the lifestyle they live. This is what they live. So burning fat and preserving muscle, this is a natural process of autophagy and intermittent fasting. Slowing aging. It slows down aging. And I'm gonna talk into this, and preserves muscle again. Oh, like why would you? My previous lifestyles, and I used to do these diets and that kind of stuff, and people I would talk about, the ketosis lifestyle and all the kind of thing. And I'm not talking ketosis today, but trying to reach ketosis and these other diets lifestyle that I had, and I looked gaunt and I looked sick. But one of the things is I was losing muscles. I was always losing muscles. Like I would look at myself like I didn't look healthy. This lifestyle, the muscles stay, the fat disappears and dissipates. You basically shrink wrap, and you're burning fat, you're improving hormones, you're slowing down your aging. Think about that for a second, right? Increase in energy. Those that know Jean-Guy Bourguignon, they will tell you, man, what an energy boost on that guy, right? Everybody that follows this lifestyle shoots up in energy. Increase in energy, increase in brain function, cognitive brain function, mind-boggling, the productivity, the content, like just shoots right up. And I wrote here, using tools and more activity. I wrote this because yesterday on my social media, I talked about how dinner was ready. My daughter was going to go play soccer after dinner, had a scrimmage practice, and then my wife said dinner's almost ready, so my daughter wanted to go run before the practice. I said, okay, let's go now. So we went for a run. She did her run, I did the bike thing, and I was coaching her in training. And when we got back home, she turned the corner to go home. I said, I'll come back. I took another 3 kilometers, just gave her, burned my legs, just burning to come back home. Then I had my dinner. Then they went to the scrimmage practice. I started working, being more productive, again, the cognitive. And then after that, I went to the pool. I started doing laps. And the reason why I wrote more activities and using the tools, I've never used our property the way I'm using our property now. I've never used our pool. I've never used my bike. I work on jobs at that time where I'm working on the property at home, and everything that I'm doing physical labor, I look at it as a workout. And that's what starts happening. Your cognitive thinking, the brain function, the increase in energy, you start using tools and activities differently. You start thinking about them differently. You want to add more activities to your lifestyle. Discipline. And I've said this on previous EFAs. By removing the sugars, by removing the process, by removing the artificial, the discipline will come, the rest will follow. Trust me on that. That's why there's success in my lifestyle, right? 14 months. There's tons of podcasts out there. I've done 30 days on OMAD. I've done 60 days on OMAD. I've done 2 weeks on OMAD. Well, and now I'm going into my 15th month, and probably the last 8 months has been on OMAD. In my first 6 months, it was intermittent fasting, minimum 16 hours of no calories, right? I've talked about this before. Your key is 16 hours, no calories. And then your 8 hours, I used to have 3 eating windows. Those 3 eating windows were my calorie windows. That's it, inside the 8 hours. But I maintained 16 hours, no calories, only food. Only water, like no calories, just water, liquids like coffee, black coffee, no creams now. Your teas, your sparkling waters, your espressos. And people say, I don't do the artificial flavors. Now, if you want flavor, just add your real flavors too, like real berries now. But by doing that, the discipline came just like that. Like I got rid of the drug dealers. I got rid of the drug dealers. I got rid of the processed, the sugars and the artificial. The discipline came, the rest followed. Autophagy. Every day, my key. Remember, before I started on June 3rd, 2019, I did my research. Intrinsically, I knew where I was going. Then I got into the research. And then when I started properly, and I never looked back, right? And one of the things that I do every day is I reach autophagy. And that's why you want to have your 16 hours minimum. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I'm going to go lean on my investigative background and so on and so forth. And I always tell people you can't argue the facts, and the data is the data. Autophagy, the data is there, and the proof is in the pudding. So when I look at autophagy in the beginning, that's when I went after. So my minimum 16 hours progressed to 18 hours, 20 hours, 20. So now 6 out of 7 days a week on average, I don't eat for 23 hours. I have no calories. I just have my liquids, right? That's what I do every day. That's where my success came in, with the no sugars, the no process, the no artificial. Then the discipline just kickstarted. I just got right on the track of discipline, and the rest followed. I invested in myself, and this is what I'm telling you: invest in yourself. You want to be free of the COVID-19 world and the disease world and the system that I'm going to get into right now. Invest in yourself. I wrote 2 key things here on COVID-19, for example. Men, Did you know, men, you are 2 times more likely to die from COVID-19 than your female counterparts? Look at the stats right now. Look at your latest stats. Not stats from December, stats from March. Look at your latest stats. Going to August 2020 right now. And it's over 600,000 deaths. Look how many men died compared to women. Do the math. Men, you're obviously not doing very well, right? Caregivers, I put that in there because I know individuals that have survived cancers now, and you're going to talk to their caregivers, and they're going to tell you the addiction, like the grocery bags, I should call them garbage bags, but the grocery bags of just your sugars and your processed and your artificials, the nums, the empty, poisonous calories. And they almost died of cancer, or they're dying of cancer, or they had I've had an individual in front of me, had the entire insides removed, and he had a cigarette in his hand, and he had a flavored sugar drink in the other hand. You just had your insides removed because of cancer, but that's how strong those addictions are. Those bags of nums, of sugars and processed and everything. You're dying of cancer, and you're still filling your body of that. That's because the drug dealers out there, the marketing world of pushing sugar and pushing process, pushing everything, and people start very young. And I talked about this. I was probably in an insulin body my entire life up until June 3rd, 2019. I was most likely in a insulin body my entire life and an inflammatory body my entire life. And now I'm gonna go, what is the reverse of all this? And this is why I believe in vaccine, but I first and foremost believe in this. Why? Anti-aging. Living an intermittent fasting lifestyle of 16 hours or more of no calories, no more than 3 eating windows, getting rid of the processed sugars and artificials, and all this comes in. It's anti-aging. Proven data, the whole 9 yard, anti-cancer. All that social media out there like, boop, cancer. But you don't have to, boop, cancer if you live this life. If you live this life for a long duration, anti-aging, anti-cancer, anti-inflammation. And what does that mean? You're going to see in a second. The bulk of all underlying issues come from inflammation. Look at all your illnesses that you're suffering from and look at the root cause, inflammation. When I'm talking about my joint pains and my hip pains and etc., calcific tendinitis. Basically, it's calcium deposits. I have that on my joints, and I have that on my hips and that kind of stuff. Again, remember the 350-pound man, inflammation, it'll take 10 to 20 years before it starts sprouting up in your body. That's why in your 50s and 60s and 70s, you start falling apart like kerplunk, instead of living 100 solid years this way, right? Healthy, disease-free. So that inflammation, one of the treatment for the calcific tendinitis, they talk about cortisone shots, they talk about surgery, they talk about, or live this lifestyle. Live an intermittent fasting lifestyle, detox yourself a weeks at a time, and you can get rid of calcific tendinitis, inflammation disease. Could you imagine that, right? Diabetes, living this lifestyle, disappears and dissipates by living this lifestyle. Weight gain, that was me, 350 pounds at 6'2". Think about that for a second. People are telling me, no, you're strong, you're this, you're that. I was fat. Look at my skin, look at my eyes, look how unhealthy I looked, right? Lung issues. I was on puffers, right? That 53-year-old guy now with heart medication, with puffers, I can keep going on. That's what was happening to me. This is all this stuff. Bone issues, and I tell you the joint issues. That's what was happening. And these are all related to inflammation, all related to your inflammation and your insulin bodies. Depression, yeah, I've had some depressive moments in my life, and I'm like, how do I shake this? I figured it out. And I'm an optimist. People will tell you he's an optimist. Your smartest of faces, your biggest of optimists also suffer from depression. And a lot of it comes from living an insulin body, inflammatory world. Joint pains, I'm going to tie that again to my bone issues. Digestive issues. How many digestive issues out there? The irritable bowel disorder, right? All these things that are tied to the gut issues and so on and so forth. The cardiovascular issues. They put isotope through my heart because I was having heart issues. Think about that. Imagine that. I was 53 years old now. All these conditions are coming in, right? Coming in. They were building. Because I never went to autophagy, because I was in an insulin body world, because I was in an inflammatory world, this is what was building in my body. All these things were building. They were building, all right. They were building heart issues. They were building inflammatory issues. They were building weight gain. They were building lung issues. They were building all those issues. Why? Because they were shutting these guys down. They shut these guys down, the autophagy crew, the self-cleaning crew, the mechanics of your body, the tool that you were born with a self-cleaning oven. They forgot to give you the manual, but the manual is right there. And this is what everything else was being built. But now that I live this lifestyle, disappearing and dissipating. Cardiovascular, just talked about skin issues. I used to look at my skin. Look at your skin. Those that are completely out of shape and you know you are, and those that really don't feel good and you know you're overweight, look at your skin. Speaks volumes. Gut issues, kidney issues, liver issues, hormone issues. Living this lifestyle, anti all this stuff. And that's just the basis. Anti a lot more other things. There's so many changes in your life. There's so many changes in your health. And so many... If you can live 100 years, ask anybody that, fill a survey, an anonymous survey. If you could live 100 years disease-free for free, would you want to know? Right? If you want to do something right, ask somebody that's done it right. And I've done all the lifestyles, and I've done the diets, and I've done so many different things. For me, this fit so well, and it's so easy. And I know people have the problem with the discipline. That's because of the process of sugars and all that other stuff, right? The artificials and that. But by living this lifestyle, this disappears and dissipates. I was listening to a Zac Efron Netflix series, and it was on Down to Earth. Really good series if you haven't watched it. And in there, he shows this little episode and part of it, and it showed that different parts of the world, you've seen this on social media, where a North American family, how they eat, and it's all processed food. And then you have a European family, how they eat, and it's different types of food. Then you have families that are nutrient-dense food families around the world that don't have access to processed and sugars and artificials. But what was interesting is their cost per day per family. The families that live on the processed food world, etc., their cost per day was up here, right? And they're the ones that are eating 17 to 21 times a day, or 10 to 15 times a day, or 8 to 10 times a day, right? Even in the impoverished worlds, they're eating a lot. Like I'm talking about the North American impoverished world, they guarantee they're eating 8 to 10 times a day, right? All the snacks and the chocolate bars and the chips are cheap food. They call them cheap food. That's all they could afford. Because the parts of the world that are impoverished and but they access to real food and grow their own food and that kind of stuff, their cost per day was right down here. And people are going to say, yeah, but they don't have as much. Yeah, you're not supposed to eat more than 3 times a day. You're literally not supposed to eat more than 3 times a day in 3-calorie windows. Instead of in 8 hours, you're supposed to be free of food for 16 hours, right? These people naturally live that, and their cost per day per food is down here. And the reason why I'm doing this, could you imagine if the rest of the world that would step out of the processed food, step out of the sugar, step out of the artificial world, step out of the insulin body, step out of the inflammatory body, and only ate 3 times a day? That's what would happen. If you only ate 3 times a day, eat real food, even the impoverished world, even the impoverished North Americans that can't afford real food, yes, you can. You just got to eat real food. You can't eat more than 3 times a day, and you live. And then what's the other thing that's going to happen? All these diseases, all these medical conditions, all these medical systems that I talk about, right? That's exactly what's going to happen. You're afraid of the COVID-19 world, of jamming the system, and that's why we got to participate. I'm one of those people. You have to participate, and I say that on my podcast. You have to participate because we can't jam up the system. But if everybody lived this lifestyle, this system, that's what would happen. The system would basically, you'd be treating the 10 to 20% instead of the 60, 70, 80%. You would only be treating the 10 to 20% if the world lived like this. You would be treating real medical conditions caused by actual real breakdowns and because of your body, your genetics, and so forth. You wouldn't be treating non-nutrient dense lifestyle. You wouldn't be treating insulin lifestyle. You wouldn't be treating inflammatory lifestyles. You'd be treating real medical conditions caused by genetics. That's what you would be treating. And that's it. Invest in yourself. Live this lifestyle. The medical condition will disappear and dissipate. I believe in vaccines, but I truly believe living this lifestyle, you will be disease-free for the most part of your life, and you'll live a long and prosperous, right? I almost did the Spock thing here, but you're gonna live a long and prosperous life, disease-free, 100 years. Try to get 100 years out of your body. I challenge you. Jean-Guy Bourguignon, EFA135.